What happens when the artists become bigger than the machine that built them? 7 men walked into a small company on the edge of bankruptcy and turned it into a billion-dollar empire. But now, each one of them commands industries, moves stock markets, and sells out stadiums alone. So who really holds the power here? This is proof that BTS outgrew HYBE, and there's no going back. Number 7. The soldier who moved the stock market, Jin. Idols disappear when they enlist. Kim Sek-jin rewrote that entire expectation. On December 13, 2022, Jin became the first BTS member to begin mandatory military service, enlisting as an active-duty soldier in the Republic of Korea Army's 5th Infantry Division in Yeoncheon. The internet mourned. HYBE's stock had already been declining throughout 2022, partly fueled by investor anxiety over BTS's inevitable hiatus. But here's what nobody in the boardroom predicted. Jin's absence didn't erase him, it amplified him. Before enlisting, Jin dropped The Astronaut in October 2022, a single co-written with Coldplay's Chris Martin. The track debuted at number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100, and a music video surpassed 100 million views on YouTube. He wasn't promoting it, he wasn't on talk shows, he was literally in the military. The song moved on the strength of his name alone. Inside the Army, Jin completed the grueling 5-week assistant drill instructor course and was appointed to train fellow soldiers, a role given only to top-performing recruits. He earned commendation from his commanding officers. He wasn't playing celebrity soldier, he was earning respect the hard way, and Korean media covered it widely, keeping him in the national conversation without a single promotional effort from HYBE. Then came June 12, 2024, Discharge Day. Jin walked out of that military base and the reaction was seismic. He appeared live at the Festa event celebrating BTS's 11th anniversary, hugging all 6 members in a moment that trended #1 worldwide on X. HYBE's stock saw a noticeable uptick around this period, as investor confidence returned with the first member's completion of service, signaling the beginning of BTS's path back to full group activity. No marketing budget in the world can manufacture that kind of market movement. That's one man walking out of a gate. After discharge, Jin launched his solo album, Happy, on November 15, 2024. The title track, Running Wild, debuted at number 76 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album itself reached number 3 on Billboard 200, making Jin a top-charting solo artist in the United States without the machinery of a full BTS comeback behind him. His solo fan meeting, Jin's Happy Special Stage Briefing, sold out immediately, proving his individual drawing power needed zero group support. Brand-wise, Jin was named a global ambassador for Fred Jewelry, the prestigious French luxury house. He graced magazine covers solo, and every collaboration he touched generated sellout reports. Here's the part that should concern any agency executive. Jin did all of this with minimal corporate push. No massive ad campaigns, no algorithmic playlist manipulation, just a man with a face the public trusts, a voice that charts without playlisting strategies, and a fan base so loyal they held streaming parties for him while he was literally unreachable in a military barracks. HYBE didn't make Jin trend from inside the army. HYBE didn't make investors breathe easier when he walked out. Jin did that with nothing but who he is. When a single member's military discharge can visibly affect your company's stock performance, that member isn't your employee anymore. He's your infrastructure. And if one soldier can do this, imagine what happens when all 7 are back on the field. Number 6. The man who conquered festivals alone, J-Hope. Jung Ho-sak didn't wait for permission to prove he could stand on his own. While most K-pop soloists test the waters with a digital single or a safe ballad, J-Hope walked straight into the deep end and headlined Lollapalooza Chicago on July 31, 2022. Let that satisfy sink in. Lollapalooza, one of the biggest music festivals on the planet, the same stage that hosted Metallica, Dua Lipa, and Green Day. And there was J-Hope, the first South Korean artist in history to headline a major American music festival. He didn't open, he didn't guest appear, he closed the night on the main stage, performing to a crowd of over 100,000 people. And the response was so overwhelming that festival organizers publicly praised the turnout. HYB didn't build that stage. HYB didn't sell those tickets. The name J-Hope did. 2 weeks before Lollapalooza, he released Jack in the Box on July 15, 2022, his first official solo album. This wasn't a polished pop record designed by committee. It was raw, experimental, rooted in old-school hip-hop and punk energy. Tracks like More and Arson carried a grittiness that proved J-Hope wasn't interested in playing it safe. The album debuted at number 17 on the Billboard 200. For a solo K-pop release with zero radio play strategy in the US market, that number is staggering. Then came On the Street featuring J. Cole, released in March 2023, a collaboration that connected him directly to one of American hip-hop's most respected lyricists. J. Cole doesn't do features for clout. He did this one because J-Hope earned that respect as an artist. The track debuted at number 60 on the Hot 100 and signaled to the global music industry that J-Hope wasn't a side character in the BTS story. He was a protagonist writing his own chapters. On April 18, 2023, J-Hope enlisted for mandatory military service as an active duty soldier. Just like Jin, he completed the assistant drill instructor course, one of the most demanding training paths available. But even from inside the barracks, his influence didn't stop. In March 2024, while still serving, Hope on the Street Volume 1 was released alongside a documentary series on Prime Video. A 6-episode docuseries exploring street dance culture with J-Hope at the center, learning, teaching, and connecting with dancers from different disciplines. Prime Video, a global streaming platform, invested real production money into a project centered entirely on one man's artistic identity. That's not an idol promotion, that's an entertainment property. He was discharged on October 17, 2024, and the fashion world was already waiting. J-Hope had been serving as a global ambassador for Louis Vuitton, attending Paris Fashion Week front rows, and generating media coverage that luxury brands spend millions trying to manufacture. Every outfit he wore publicly became instant search engine traffic. Every appearance moved product. Here's what makes J-Hope's case devastating for the agency controls the artist argument. His entire solo identity was built on skills HYB didn't teach him. His street dance foundation predates Big Hit. His artistic taste leans experimental in ways no corporate strategy would greenlight. His festival credibility was earned on a stage no K-pop company had ever accessed before. J-Hope didn't borrow the BTS brand to go solo. He brought a skill set so undeniable that a Chicago festival, an American rapper, and a French luxury house all said yes independently. When your artist is headlining stages your company could never have booked on its own reputation, the power equation has already flipped. Number 5. The leader who speaks to the world. RM. Kim Namjoon didn't just lead a boy band. He stood at the podium of the United Nations General Assembly, not once, not twice, but 3 times. In September 2018, RM delivered a speech to world leaders as part of UNICEF's Generation Unlimited partnership, becoming the first K-pop artist to address the UN. He spoke about self-acceptance, about the pressure young people face, and he did it in fluent English that he taught himself by watching the American sitcom Friends as a teenager. That speech was watched over 30 million times online within days. The UN didn't invite HYBE, they didn't invite BTS's management, they invited Namjoon. He returned to the UN in 2020 for a virtual address during the COVID-19 pandemic, and again in September 2021 alongside the other members as special presidential envoy for future generations and culture, appointed directly by South Korean President Moon Jae-in. A government gave a pop musician diplomatic credentials. That's not fandom, that's geopolitical soft power, and it was anchored to one man's ability to articulate ideas that transcend music. When RM finally released his first solo album, Indigo, on December 2, 2022, it was clear this wasn't an idle side project. The album featured collaborations with Erykah Badu, Anderson .Paak, Tablo, and Korean rock legend Eugene. These aren't artists who lend their name for commercial synergy. Erykah Badu is one of the most selective collaborators in modern music. Anderson .Paak is an Oscar-winning artist through Silk Sonic. They said yes to Namjoon because they recognized a peer, not a pop product. Indigo debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, the highest charting solo debut by a BTS member at that time. The lead single, Wildflower, featuring Eugene, became an anthem about the internal struggle between wanting recognition and wanting peace. Music critics from Pitchfork to Rolling Stone reviewed the album seriously, not as a K-pop novelty, but as a legitimate body of artistic work. Then came Right Place, Wrong Person on May 24, 2024, released while RM was serving military duty after enlisting on December 11, 2023. The album debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200. He was unreachable, unable to promote, unable to perform, and still charted top 5 in America. The album leaned into alternative and indie rock territory, a deliberate creative risk that no corporate strategy team would have recommended for a K-pop solo debut. But RM doesn't make music for algorithms. He makes music that ages well, and the market responded. Beyond music, RM's intellectual identity became a cultural force on its own. His documented love for art and literature, visiting museums worldwide, discussing philosophy on his personal platform, turned him into a figure that transcended entertainment. He became an ambassador for Bottega Veneta, the Italian luxury house known for its understated, craft-driven aesthetic, a brand alignment that reflected Namjoon's own public identity perfectly. He didn't chase the loudest fashion brand. The quiet, prestigious one came to him. Here's what separates RM from a typical agency-managed artist. His authority comes from credibility that no company can fabricate. You can't train someone to speak at the United Nations with genuine emotional weight. You can't manufacture the intellectual curiosity that makes Erykah Badu want to collaborate. You can't corporate engineer a person that a national government appoints as a cultural envoy. RM built a reputation so substantial that he operates in rooms HYBE will never be invited into. Diplomatic halls, art galleries, and creative circles where the currency is respect, not market share. When your leader doesn't need your building to command a room, the title on the org chart stops meaning what it used to. Number 4. The producer who outgrew the machine. Suga. Min Yoongi was never just a performer. Before BTS existed, before Big Hit gave him a stage name, he was already an underground rapper in Daegu, writing lyrics about poverty, depression, and the raw economics of survival in a country that romanticizes suffering and silence. When he became Sugar, the idol industry got a member. But when he became August D, the music industry got a force it couldn't contain inside any company's creative department. Suga's solo trajectory under his August D alias is a masterclass in artistic independence. His first mixtape, August D, dropped in 2016 for free, no label push, no promotional budget. It featured The Last, a track where he rapped explicitly about his battles with depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and social anxiety. In an industry that manufactures perfection, Yoongi handed the public his medical history and dared them to look away. They didn't. They listened. D2 followed in 2020, and then came the final chapter, D-Day, released on April 21, 2023. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, making it the highest charting solo album by any BTS member at that point. Number 2, in America, as a Korean-language rap album with no radio single, no English-language crossover track, and no feature from a Western pop star designed to game the charts. Just Yoongi, his beats, and his pen. But Suga didn't just chart as a solo artist, he launched a world tour. The August D Tour D-Day was his first solo concert tour, and it sold out arenas across the United States, Asia, and beyond throughout 2023. He filled venues that most Western rappers would struggle to book, performing a set list built entirely from his solo discography. No BTS songs as a safety net, no group members as surprise guests, just one man on a stage proving that his name alone could sell tens of thousands of seats per night. Then there's the production side, the part that should terrify any agency that thinks it controls the value chain. Suga produced That for Psy in 2022, and the music video surpassed 500 million views on YouTube. He didn't just feature on the track, he produced it, appeared in the video, and essentially handed Psy, the man behind Gangnam Style, one of his biggest hits in years. He produced 8 with IU, one of Korea's biggest solo artists, and the song topped Korean charts instantly. He worked with Halsey on Suga's Interlude. He produced tracks across BTS's discography that became fan favorites and concert staples. Yoongi isn't waiting for a company to assign him a beat. He is the beat. Other artists, massive, established, industry-defining artists, come to him. His documentary Suga, Road to D-Day, premiered on Disney Plus in April 2023, offering an unfiltered look at his creative process and his journey across global music scenes. Disney Plus invested in a documentary about a single K-pop idol's artistic philosophy. That's not idol content. That's a filmmaker recognizing a subject compelling enough to carry a feature-length production on a global streaming platform. Suga enlisted for military service on September 22, 2023, serving as a social service agent following a shoulder replacement surgery he underwent in 2020. Even his enlistment became a public conversation, not managed by HYBE's PR team, but driven by Yoongi's own transparency about his physical limitations and his commitment to fulfilling his national duty. Regardless, the fashion world recognized him too. Valentino named him a global ambassador, aligning their brand with his sharp, minimalist public image. When a man can produce hits for other legends, sell out world tours under a name his company didn't create, top the Billboard 200 with an uncompromising Korean rap album, and get a Disney Plus documentary greenlit on the strength of his story alone, that man isn't an asset on a balance sheet. He's the balance sheet. And somewhere in HYBE's finance department, they know it.
Number 3. The face that moves industries. V. Kim Tae-young doesn't need to say a word to shift markets. He just needs to be seen. V possesses something no agency can engineer, no training program can install, and no marketing team can replicate. A presence so magnetic that entire industries recalibrate when he shows up. And he has the receipts to prove every bit of it. Start with the fashion world, because that's where Tae-young's individual power first became impossible to ignore. Celine appointed him as their global ambassador, and the partnership wasn't cosmetic. Under creative director Eddie Silemaine, a man notoriously selective about who represents his vision, V became the face of the house. He sat front row at Paris Fashion Week, and every outfit he wore triggered immediate sellouts. The term sold-out king didn't come from a marketing team. It came from retailers watching their inventory vanish in real time every time Tae-young was photographed in a product. His influence became so measurable that fashion analytics firms began tracking what they called the Tae-young effect, a quantifiable spike in brand searches and sales tied directly to his visibility. Then came the music. Layover, V's debut solo album, was released on September 8, 2023, and it wasn't what anyone expected from one of K-pop's biggest names. No high-energy dance tracks, no maximalist production. Instead, Taeyong delivered a jazz-inflected R&B-leaning project, dripping in vulnerability and restraint. Tracks like Slow Dancing and Rainy Days showcased his deep baritone, one of the most distinctive vocal tones in contemporary pop music, in a stripped-down setting that demanded the listener pay attention to the voice, not the spectacle. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. First-week sales on Hanteo surpassed 2.1 million copies, making it one of the best-selling solo debuts by any K-pop artist. He didn't need a feature from a Western artist to prop up the numbers. He didn't need a viral TikTok challenge. The album sold on the strength of Kim Taeyong's name and artistic identity alone. Before Layover, V had already proven his solo viability. Christmas Tree, released in December 2021 as the OST for the drama Our Beloved Summer, debuted at number 79 on the Billboard Hot 100. Sweet Night, the OST for Itaewon Class in 2020, reached number 1 on iTunes in over 100 countries, a record at the time. These weren't promoted singles with choreography and music show appearances. They were soundtrack contributions that charted globally because listeners sought them out. On December 11, 2023, V enlisted for mandatory military service alongside RM. But even from inside the military, his gravitational pull didn't weaken. Friends, released on March 15, 2024, debuted at number 89 on the Billboard Hot 100, while Taeyong was completely unable to promote it. No interviews, no performances, no social media engagement. A song charted on the world's most competitive music chart, with its artist literally unreachable. Later that year, Winter Ahead, a collaboration with Korean vocal legend Park Hyo-shin, was released in November 2024. The pairing itself was a statement. Park Hyo-shin is considered one of the greatest vocalists in Korean music history, and he chose Taeyong as his duet partner. That's not an idol collaboration, that's a recognition of vocal artistry from a peer who has nothing to gain from clout. Beyond music and fashion, V demonstrated acting ability early in his career with the KBS drama Hwanang the Poet Warrior Youth in 2016, and his cultural circle extends into Korea's entertainment elite through the Wooga Squad, his well-documented friendship group that includes actors Park Seo-joon and Choi Woo-sik, stars whose films have grossed hundreds of millions globally. V doesn't orbit the entertainment industry orbits him. T.C. Candler named him one of the most handsome faces in the world multiple times, but reducing Taeyong to visuals misses the point entirely. His face opens doors, but his artistry keeps him in the room. When your solo album outsells entire label rosters, when your fashion presence generates more brand value than dedicated campaigns, and when your songs chart from inside a military barracks, you are not an artist under management. You are the management's entire reason for existing. And Taeyong knows it without ever needing to say it out loud.
Number 2, the record breaker who rewrote history, Jimin. Park Jimin didn't just enter the solo market, he detonated inside it and left a crater that the entire K-pop industry is still measuring. On March 24, 2023, Jimin released Face, his debut solo album, and what followed wasn't just a successful launch, it was a historic demolition of records that had stood untouched for decades. Like Crazy, the album's lead single, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Read that again, number 1. Park Jimin became the first Korean solo artist in history to reach the top of the Hot 100. Not the first K-pop idol, the first Korean solo artist, a distinction that separates him from group achievements and plants his flag in territory that belongs to him and him alone. The song accumulated massive first-week streams and sales, driven by a global fan base that mobilized with military precision and a casual listener appeal that crossed demographic lines.
Face itself debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, cementing Jimin as a solo force capable of competing with the biggest names in Western pop on their home turf. But here's where the story gets extraordinary. Most debut solo albums from idol group members spike and fade. Jimin came back and did it again. Muse, his second solo album, was released on July 19, 2024, while Jimin was serving mandatory military service, having enlisted on December 12, 2023. He could not promote, he could not perform, he could not post on social media, do interviews, or appear on a single music show. The album was released into the world with its creator completely silent. Muse debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Jimin became the first Korean solo artist to have 2 albums debut in the top 2 of the Billboard 200. But the real earthquake was Who. The track didn't just chart, it lived on the charts. Who debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 and refused to leave, spending over 20 consecutive weeks on the chart with a longevity that stunned industry analysts. The song went viral across TikTok and streaming platforms organically, not through a paid campaign or a label-engineered trend, but because listeners genuinely connected with it. It accumulated hundreds of millions of streams on Spotify, making it one of the most streamed songs by any K-pop soloist in the platform's history. The cruel irony for HYBE is that their biggest solo streaming hit of 2024 came from an artist who was physically unable to participate in a single promotional activity. No dance practice video, no behind-the-scenes content, no live stage, just a song so undeniable that the algorithm couldn't ignore it and the public couldn't stop replaying it. Jimin's artistry was forged long before any company got involved. He trained in contemporary dance at Busan High School of Arts, bringing a technical foundation in movement that most idol training programs don't even attempt to teach. His solo performances within BTS, Lie, Serendipity, Filter, became the most replayed, most discussed solo stages in the group's concert history. Each one demonstrated a performer who understood the emotional architecture of a stage in ways that transcend choreography. The fashion industry recognized his singular appeal early. Dior named Jimin their global ambassador, the first Korean artist to hold that title with the French luxury house. His presence at Dior shows generated record-breaking social media engagement, and every piece he wore publicly sold out with a speed that made headlines in fashion trade publications. Jimin didn't borrow Dior's prestige, he added to it. The mathematics of Jimin's solo career present an insoluble problem for anyone arguing that HYBE controls the narrative. When an artist charts number 1 on the Hot 100 with his debut, repeats top 2 Billboard 200 entries with a second album released during military silence, and generates a viral streaming phenomenon without lifting a single finger in promotion, that artist isn't benefiting from a company's infrastructure. The company is benefiting from his existence. Jimin proved that the most powerful marketing tool in HYBE's arsenal isn't a strategy, it's a person. And that person doesn't need a boardroom to move the world.
Number 1, the golden standard who eclipsed everything, Jungkook. Jungkook had roughly 5 months. 5 months between his first solo single and his military enlistment. Most artists spend years building a solo career. Jungkook compressed an entire era into a window so short it shouldn't have been possible. And in that sliver of time, he didn't just launch a solo career. He became the biggest solo artist in K-pop history by virtually every measurable metric on the planet. On July 14, 2023, 7 featuring Lotto was released, and the numbers that followed broke the music industry's brain. The song debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making Jungkook alongside Jimin one of only 2 Korean solo artists ever to reach that peak. But Jungkook didn't just touch number 1, he stayed. 7 held the top position and dominated global charts simultaneously, reaching number 1 in over 100 countries on iTunes. On Spotify, the song shattered the record for the biggest single-day streams by a solo artist at the time of release. It wasn't a slow build, it was an instant worldwide detonation that no playlist strategy or label machinery could have manufactured at that scale. Then came 3D featuring Jack Harlow in October 2023, followed by Golden, his debut solo album, on November 3, 2023. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Standing Next to You, the album's title track, debuted at number 5 on the Hot 100, making Jungkook the first Korean solo artist to place multiple songs in the top 5 of the chart. The music video was a love letter to Michael Jackson-era pop performance, razor-sharp choreography, retro funk production, and a vocal delivery so controlled and explosive that comparisons to the king of pop weren't hyperbole, but observation. By the end of 2023, Jungkook was the most streamed K-pop soloist on Spotify. Not for a week, not for a month, for the entire year. He achieved this in less than half a calendar year of activity. Artists with full 12-month promotional cycles, unlimited touring schedules, and massive Western label support couldn't match the streaming volume of a 26-year-old who knew he had weeks before he'd disappear into a military barracks. But the global stage wasn't new to Jungkook. On November 20th, 2022, he performed Dreamers live at the opening ceremony of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The World Cup, the single most watched sporting event in human history, with an estimated global audience of over 1 billion viewers. FIFA didn't invite BTS, they invited Jungkook. One performer, one voice, one stage, transmitted to every continent on Earth. That performance alone placed him in a category of cultural visibility that no K-pop company has ever accessed through its own brand power. Calvin Klein understood exactly what they were getting when they named Jungkook their global ambassador. His campaign images broke social media engagement records for the brand. Industry reports indicated measurable sales increases directly tied to his visibility. Not vague brand awareness metrics, but actual revenue movement tracked to the moment Jungkook's face appeared in their campaigns. He didn't just model the clothes, he moved the product, at a scale that justified every dollar of the partnership. Jungkook enlisted for military service on December 12, 2023, and the silence that followed only amplified how loud his 5 months had been. His music continued to stream in the billions. His records remained unbroken. His cultural footprint didn't shrink, it calcified into something permanent. Here is the fact that should keep every executive at HYBE awake at 3 in the morning. Jungkook generated more global chart impact, more streaming records, more brand revenue, and more cultural reach in 5 months than most of HYBE's non-BTS roster has produced combined across years of investment. He performed for 1 billion people at the World Cup without the company's name attached. He broke Spotify records without needing the company's playlist relationships. He moved Calvin Klein's revenue needle without the company's fashion division being involved. Jungkook is not HYBE's most valuable asset. Jungkook is the proof that the word asset was always the wrong term. You don't own a force of nature. You just hope it lets you stand close enough to feel the warmth. And when all 7 of them stand together again, that isn't a comeback. That's a reminder of who really holds the power. And it was never the building with the logo on it.